I often talk about mindful communication in the context of a couple things. Firstly would be about mindful listening. So if we think about how we show up at most meetings these days, and I firmly believe that most meetings that I've seen in many organizations are not very effective. And in fact, the last time I was a senior manager in a large multinational, I was in meetings 80% of my day back to back, and most of them weren't very effective. Why? Because most people weren't paying attention. And so the way to make them more effective is to actually listen with full attention, to be present with someone, and to try to listen without judgment. What does that mean? It means putting away these digital devices. It means, believe it or not, putting your laptop down. If you have to take notes, see if you can take it with pen and paper. The research has shown, Jeff, that you actually retain more when you write it out by hand. And being present and listening to the person. I'm in meetings all the time where I see people answering the phone, typing on the laptop, and I know that a lot of that is them being distracted and not paying attention. Then at the end of the meeting, you end up having to have another meeting to go over the contents of the meeting that no one listened to. So I remember the last time I was a senior executive, I kind of said to my people, unless you're expecting a call, from someone in the hospital or you have to pick up your kid, please don't bring your phone to the meeting. And there was a rebellion, especially amongst the younger generation, because we're so addicted to these things that we can't even be without them for a few minutes, never mind an hour. Having the phone next to you, even completely turned off, so not on vibrate or on silent, but actually turned off, still reduces your cognitive ability because you are so wired into it that you anticipate, even though it's off, you're going to get a ding or a message or something, and you keep wanting to check it, even though it's turned off. So this is a classic thing that I've seen before. I actually don't know who came up with it originally. I've never been able to find the author. So this is part of mindful communication where we talk about what are some of those key blocks to listening and paying attention to people. And there's 12 of them that have been identified, and maybe you can put them up, Jeff, and I'll just quickly go through them. The first one is comparing it. You can't really listen to somebody if you're always comparing yourself to them. You're trying to come up with who's better, who's more competent, who's more emotionally healthy, whether it's you or the other person. So you're not really paying attention. My reading is just like it sounds. You're the magnificent Karnak. You really know what the person's going to say before they say it, so you don't bother paying attention. Rehearsing is one that I find myself doing a lot, which is while the person is speaking, I'm thinking of the next brilliant point that I'm going to make. In fact, sometimes I have a whole conversation in my mind. First, Jeff will say this, then I'll say that, then Jeff will respond this, and then I'll say that, rehearsing. Filtering is when you filter out what a person is saying because you're listening for one specific thing. Are they angry at me, for example? And if once I hear that they're not, then I kind of tune out because I'm only listening to see if they're angry. Judging is what it sounds like. You've made a judgment that person is incompetent, they're not good at what they're doing, so I don't really pay attention to them because I've already judged them. Dreaming, just like it sounds, daydreaming in the middle. You know that study showed that about half the time our minds are wandering. So that's the one that people often experience, especially in meetings. Identifying is where you take everything the person says and you relate it back to something that you've done. So someone says, I worked so hard on this project, I worked all weekend. You think, yeah, but I worked 3 weekends in a row and I didn't even go to the washroom. So you're trying to relate it back to yourself. Advising, you're the great advisor. As soon as somebody says something, you have a bit of advice for them. You're not really paying attention. You just want to be their advisor. Sparring, people like to fight. Always happens. You'll always run into people that no matter what, they want to have an argument. Some people need to be right. Derailing is where you derail the conversation because you're uncomfortable with it. Sometimes it uses humor, but you don't like the subject, so you derail it. And placating is one that often I see, which is you want to be liked, you want to be appreciated, so you agree with everything the person says. That's amazing. You're fantastic. So, we often talk about paying attention in that we tell someone to do it. And especially in dealing with our children, we say, pay attention. But do we ever teach them how to pay attention? We don't. And that is a skill that can be learned like anything else, how to pay attention and how to be able to sustain it.